Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, February 4th. My name is Dr. Glenna, and welcome to the Happy Hour. Again, my name is Dr. Glenna, and I am a licensed clinical social worker with a private practice in Torrance, California, where I specialize in anxiety-based disorders and emotional abuse recovery. I basically help people settle down and really restructure their lives. So, the Happy Hour is my weekly wellness webinar. It's completely free. And now you can watch the replays on YouTube, also completely free. So if for any reason you miss it, catch the replay and then join us. We meet every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the sunny West Coast. God bless the people on the East Coast. I don't know anything about that. I like to visit the snow and then I come home to the beach. But thank you all very much for joining me. I teach the concept of therapy as a lifestyle. This is the idea of addressing your mental health before it becomes mental illness. It is an intentional effort to address five major areas of your life in order to make sure that you are balanced. You can have all the money in the world, but if your physical health isn't right, your mental health won't be right. You can have all the friends in the world, but if your money isn't right, then you're going to be imbalanced. So, the happy hour is one of those ways that we learn new concepts. It is not intended to be used in lieu of individual therapy, in lieu of any psychiatric medication, in lieu of any group therapy. If for any reason you're experiencing any mental health symptoms, please talk to a licensed clinician, a psychiatrist, or at least your primary care physician. The happy hour is for educational purposes only, and it's to be used to learn and enhance what you are doing with your therapist, with your psychiatrist, and just with yourself, because sometimes we're not always meeting with somebody. I am going to share my slides. There we go. Again, thank you very much for your patience. For those that were waiting, we had a tech issue and I ain't the tech savviest. So, welcome to the happy hour. Today, we're going to talk about emotional abuse, erosion, not explosion. Okay. And again, my name is Dr. Glenna, and I have a sweet tooth. Like it just doesn't stop. And I have not a lick of shame. So there's that. What is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse is rarely about one dramatic incident. In fact, typically, if there's one big incident, it's probably not emotional abuse. It's probably just a person having a bad day, making a bad choice, making a bad decision. Usually, emotional abuse is more about a pattern of a relational behavior where it erodes self-trust, emotional safety, and identity over time. Okay. So your partner saying something slick one time that's not necessarily emotional abuse. Your parent getting upset with you and they lose their temper, it's not necessarily emotional abuse. What we're looking at is something that happens, it's an erosion that happens over a period of time. It often shows up very quietly, very subtly, and consistently, which is why it's easy to dismiss. I always say emotional abuse is almost like secondhand smoke that just kind of seeps into the room. And you don't realize that it's even in the room until you take a step out and realize, wait a second, the air out here is fresh and the air inside here has a hint of smoke. Okay, that's how emotional abuse, it seeps in slowly. It's a very insidious but very intentional process. And this is what I mean when I say emotional abuse is often about erosion, not explosion. Okay, so there's a difference between a person that uses poor judgment, a couple that, they kind of get into arguments or they're bickering. That's not necessarily emotional abuse. The process of emotional abuse is intended to wear you down slowly over a period of time. Okay. Why? Wait a minute. There we go. What does emotional abuse look like? It looks like gaslighting. We've heard this term before. What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a psychological concept where a person is intentionally trying to erode your concept of reality and truth. This is not someone saying, the movie started at 5, it started at 4. Don't gaslight me. Like, well, hold on a second. I just made a mistake. That's not necessarily gaslighting. There's a difference between just making a mistake and misremembering information or misinforming someone. Gaslighting is intended to make you second guess your understanding of truth and reality. So it makes it so that now you look to your abuser for truth and you look to your abuser for reality. Okay. Gaslighting might look like, oh, I like what I have on. I mean, if you like that sort of thing, well, what's wrong with my outfit? I mean, nobody really dresses like that. It's intended to make you question who you are, what's true. And so after a long period of that, of the small nitpicking, chipping away at your sense of self, your sense of confidence in your ability to make decisions. Now you start to look to your abuser. Now, every time you get dressed, you're like, well, what do you think? Well, do you like it? And the only way you move is if the abuser uh, uh, tells you what truth is. That is gaslighting. And again, over a period of time. We're not talking about a person that made a mistake. We're not talking about a person that remembered something differently than how you remembered it. We're talking about an intentional and insidious effort to make you deny your understanding of truth and reality. Chronic invalidation. We're not talking about you came to your friend and you were sad and they were like, girl, it's not that deep. We're not talking about a one time thing or a friend just missing the mark. We're talking about a person that makes it a point to not validate your experiences, not validate your feelings. Okay. You go to your partner, you're like, God, I had such a long day. And they're like, it's not even that deep every single day. They're watching you deteriorate over this project that you're working on. They're watching you struggle emotionally, mentally, physically. They're watching your hair shed and you're losing weight, in ways that you probably shouldn't be losing weight. And they're consistently invalidating your experience. Or another way that this happens is when a person is having affairs or they're cheating on you. And every time you try to say this is hurtful, they're like, well, you made me do it. Like chronic invalidation. All of this is intended to throw you off your guard. Last week, I talked about choosing unsafe people, and I talked about the concept of your instinct needing calibration, like the calibration of your instinct being off. Gaslighting and chronic invalidation, it makes it so that now you don't know what's right and what's wrong and what's true. And when I say those phrases, right, wrong, and true, I mean what's right for you. I mean what's wrong for you, and I mean what's true for you. Okay. These methods are intended to make you question that so that once again, you are solely relying on your abuser to determine what's right and what's wrong and what's true. Emotional neglect. Emotional neglect looks like not having your emotions, your feelings, your experiences validated and tended to on a regular basis. This is the little kid that falls down, and maybe it hurt on the outside, but it also hurt their feelings because falling down scared them because falling down is still new and still hurtful. And someone saying, "Get up, ain't nothing wrong with you." That's a form of emotional neglect. Emotional neglect is literally ignoring people. The silent treatment is a form of emotional abuse, right? And it's a use of emotional neglect. I'm going to withdraw my love and affection. I'm going to withdraw my attention. I'm going to see that you need it. I'm going to see an opportunity to lean in and be close to you emotionally. And I'm not going to do it over a period of time. Emotionally unavailable people are guilty of emotional neglect because they don't even know how to fully lean in and fully support and really have that deep emotional connection with another person. Intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is that hot and cold behavior. Intermittent reinforcement is intended to make your body physiologically addicted to the highs and the lows that come with this person. Intermittent reinforcement is also intended to make you think psychologically and physiologically, meaning your nervous system believes that you will only be okay and you will only feel safe if you are connected to this person. What does it look like? Intermittent reinforcement means you meet a person and they lean in really fast, really hard. Probably, what is the term? No, it's not coming to me. Of course, it's not coming to me because I'm on camera. Why would it come to me on camera? Love bombing. Love bombing is a form, it's a part of intermittent reinforcement. So you meet somebody and they lean in really, really hard. And oh my God, you're the best thing ever. I've never met anybody like you. I know that you're the one. Oh my God, you smell good. You look good. Your family. I want you to meet my mom and my kids and my so on. And I want you to move in really fast. They're laying it on really, really thick. And what happens is first they're nice, 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 nice. And then they withdraw a little bit, right? You talk all the time, all day long, and then they withdraw just a little bit. And you're like, hey, I didn't talk to you. And then they lean back in. And then they do it again a little bit later and they withdraw a little bit more. And instead of being nice, 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 now they're nice, nice, withdraw. Nice, nice, withdraw. And what happens is when everything is laid on thick, it creates oxytocin in your system. Oxytocin is our bonding hormone that makes us feel loved and connected to other people. But when someone is love bombing you or using intermittent reinforcement, they're essentially tapping on that oxytocin and getting it to release into your system prematurely. And it creates a premature hormonal bond with this person, or so you think. Because the hormone is being released into your system, it gives you the impression that you are bonded to this person. It's a false sense of security. And what happens is when they withdraw, you get the stress hormones because wait, where did they go? Physiologically, your body has associated this person's presence, their compliments, them showing up and being with you all day, every day, texting and talking all day, every day. Your body has associated this connection as safety. So when they withdraw, physiologically, your body thinks, oh my God, we are unsafe. And then they lean in and pull back and lean in and pull back. And over a period of time, your body is always in a stressful mode because they stop leaning in so frequently. And you look up and now it's always stress. Now they always have a problem with something that you do. Now, why you always got to go out with your friends? Why can't you just stay home? Now they're gaslighting you. Now they're invalidating your feelings. Now there's a lot of emotional neglect. And when you decide, I've had enough, I don't like this anymore, and you try to pull away, they lean in and start the whole process all over again. Intermittent reinforcement is intended to give you a false sense of security. It is intended to play into those bonding hormones to give your entire nervous system the impression that you are connected to this person on a deep level. And then the part that makes it abusive is that they withdraw and they lean back in and withdraw. That's the intermittent reinforcement. Future faking, emotional abuse, future faking. Well, what is that, Dr. Glenna? I'm glad you asked. Future faking is when someone talks about things in the future because they know that that's exactly what you want to hear. Right? This is when you have like the parent that's not the primary parent, and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna take you to Disneyland next summer, and we're gonna have so much fun. Matter of fact, we're gonna do the Disney cruise. I'm gonna book it, and then tell your other parent I'm gonna pick you up in July, and I'm gonna take you for like 3 weeks, and we're gonna do the Disney cruise. And they're future faking. They're talking about things in the future where it seems feasible, right? Usually future faking, it's not usually like astronomical things like, oh, I'm going to take you into space. Like, no, you're not. It's things that are relatively feasible. So once again, it plays into your sense of hope. It plays into the happy hormones, and you've associated this person with feeling good, and you have this healthy anticipation, or so you think. And then you start to allow small, insidious, mean things to happen because in your mind, well, they're going to take me to Disneyland and we're going to go on the Disney cruise. So it's okay if they don't call me for 2 and 3 months to check on me. It's okay if I tell them that I had a rough day at school and they're like, you just need to get over it. Oh my God, every day is something. All of a sudden, they have planted a seed of future behavior that probably isn't going to come because it wouldn't be called future faking if it was future reality. Usually, people that use future faking, they don't make good on any of this. It just sounds good in the moment. But future faking is intended to make it so that you are so focused on that thing in the future that feels amazing and it sounds amazing that you let everything else ride. You got this person that said, I'm gonna buy you a beautiful ring. Just wait till I get my tax return check. And so you allowing this person to be a complete hellcat through Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, because you think when April comes, okay, I'm gonna get that beautiful ring. And that is what makes it abusive. We're not talking about a person that says, hey, I want to buy you something nice for Valentine's Day. And then an expense comes up, right? All of a sudden they have car troubles or, their check is short or something weird happens. We're not talking about a person that has a reasonable circumstance that makes it so that they can't make good on what their original intention was, right? We want to be really careful and really differentiate the difference between a regular person that is imperfect and a person that is intentionally using these tactics in order to play mind games with you. And subtle control. This one is also really tricky because subtle control is oftentimes wrapped up in, but I care about you. right? This is a person where they're like, oh, you need to put this jacket on because it's really cold. And you're like, oh my God, they love me so much. They just want me to make sure that I'm warm. And then it becomes, you need to put the jacket on that I say that you need. No, put the black jacket on. No, it goes better with your shoes. Put the black jacket on. Small little subtle ways of controlling what you wear. Like, oh, you still on the phone talking to your mom? Man, you always on the phone for long periods of time. And all of a sudden, those phone calls that you've always had with your mom get shorter and shorter and shorter. It's an attempt to control who you are, how you dress, where you go, who you talk to, who you get close to. Subtle control is perfect because it's trying to isolate you. And again, it's a form of gaslighting, but it's trying to isolate you from other people that might point out, like, hey, that person is trying to control you. And these are not all specific to romantic relationships. Subtle control happens from parents, even to adult children, like future faking in terms of, oh, I'll give you some money towards your wedding, but you need to do what I say today. Or, well, if you don't come over here for the holidays, then I'm not going to keep your kids when you need to go on that work trip. Subtle ways of controlling you, controlling your actions, controlling where you go, what you have access to, what information that you have access to. Again, we're not talking about reasonable people that make mistakes. Okay. We're not talking about somebody's like, hey, you drop your kids off and you never tell me when you're coming back. I need you to give me an idea of when you're coming back so that I can plan my day. That person is not trying to control you. That person is trying to set some healthy boundaries, right? And there needs to be a level of communication on both sides in order for this to continue. That's not, she trying to control my time. She trying to tell me I can't. No, that's not what's happening, right? We want to make sure that we can differentiate between unhealthy people and healthy people that are just, they need a little bit of grace. Why would you minimize your own experience? So when we talk about emotional abuse, anytime we use the word abuse in any context, nobody wants to, well, I won't say nobody, but oftentimes people don't really want to identify as the person that is abused. It's like, no, I wasn't abused per se. Like, I mean, we had some moments, but I wouldn't call it abuse, right? Why would you minimize your own experience? Why wouldn't you just say, yeah, I think it was a lot of control and I think it was a lot of gaslighting. I wasn't sure which end was up when I was in that relationship. And you know what? 90% of that relationship was really awful, but they did a lot of love bombing and intermittent reinforcement and future faking in the very beginning of the relationship that gave me a different impression of who they were. Why would you minimize your own experience? Attachment preservation. All humans are wired for attachment. When you are a baby, you literally cannot meet any of your needs. You have zero control over your physical body. Your arms are flailing and you use the restroom at times, so you don't even realize you're using a restroom. Infants don't even have a concept of their own self and individuality independent of their mother, which is our primary caretaker, which is why when the primary caretaker moves away, they get upset because they don't understand how could I possibly exist without being in your arms? I can't smell you, I can't see you, I can't hear your voice, I can't feel the beat of your heart or like the humming when you're talking. Attachment. All humans are wired for attachment. That is normal and that is healthy. Attachment preservation has to do with the idea of I have to be attached to other humans. I have to be a part of a pack in order for me to stay safe, which is true, right? If you live in a certain area, whether it's like a rural town or like a big city, we all need each other to a certain degree. I always tell people I have never cobblered a shoe. I not one time have I ever said, you know what I'm going to do this afternoon? I'm going to cut out leather and I'm going to make myself a shoe. I need the people who make shoes to continue to make shoes because I don't know how to do that. And the shoe cobbler may or may not know what attachment preservation is, so they need me too. It's normal and it's healthy to want to connect with other people. So often we will minimize our experience in an attempt to have attachment preservation. I don't want to say too much because that will threaten my attachment to the pack. The pack might mean my spouse, my siblings, my job, my neighborhood, my church, my family of origin. especially when attachment figures are involved, people that we feel attached to. If I question myself when I'm at home and I don't say anything to anybody else, that might be safer. That might be safer. If I question, well, what's wrong with me? Well, how come, if I question that versus questioning, is this even safe? Because if I have to question whether or not it's safe, I might have to leave the pack. I might have to leave the city, the house, the church, the job, the family system, the relationship, the friendship. So why would I minimize my own experience? Attachment preservation. There's a threat, or so I believe. There's a threat if I have to separate from the larger group, and I don't really want to mitigate that threat. Also, coherence over truth. Coherence over truth. The psyche prioritizes stability and meaning. Naming the harm, it can threaten your identity, your family narratives, or your self-concept. I need to stay where I am. I am a VP of a company, and this is who I am. And if I start to look closely at this company's practices, I might lose my status. I might disrupt. We are the Jones family, and the Jones family, we are givers and we are good people. If I start to question how we treat each other and why does, Big Mama talk to everybody that way, and why does Granddaddy have to be so mean to everybody, that threatens the narrative that the Joneses are good people. Coherence over the truth. I can't tell the truth about what's going on. I can't expose the truth about what's going on because that's going to disrupt some very important things in this situation. And internalized responsibility. If I'm the problem, if I can fix it, which emotional abuse plays on that concept. People that emotionally abuse others, they rely on your goodwill in order to be able to continue doing that. People who are emotionally abusive, they target people with this mentality because they know you're going to extend grace after grace after grace after grace. They know that you're going to be like, well, but they went through this, so I just got to be understanding. That's why another thing that emotionally abusive people do very on, their whole sob story. Everything about, how their mama left them on the porch, back in, 1983. You know everything about their sob story because they're playing on the fact that you will have a sense of internalized responsibility, which means it absolves them from any level of personal responsibility over their life. You gotta I always say like the what to do, but like I'm quick with the oh, too bad, so sad by Rocco. Like you got to throw one of those in there. Like you got to throw in a wow, that's crazy because they will bank on you solving their problems because they're banking on you having this high level of internalized responsibility. Self-blame maintains a sense of control. Okay, I can take care of it. I don't know what they got going on, but if I can just be smaller, if I can just be more understanding, if I can just, maybe if I just cook the dinner faster, maybe if I just buy them more gifts, maybe if I tell them how much I care about them, then that'll make everything okay. And all we're doing is we're pouring more and more of ourselves, and the abuser is like, yes, please, dote on me. Don't hold me accountable for anything that I'm doing. Don't hold me responsible for anything that I've said. No, 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 no. Why would anybody do that? No. Use that internalized responsibility to keep me comfortable, right? That's what our abuser is going to say. And again, it's the idea of I'm saying, well, if I'm the problem, then I can fix it, and then everything will be okay, which again, abusers love. Again, why would you minimize your experience? Your self-doubt is now a trauma response. You have experienced so many unpleasant things that instead of responding with indignation, oh my God, how dare you speak to me that way? How dare you? How dare you lean in really hard and then withdraw and then expect to be able to come back as though nothing has happened? No, 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 no. There is an impact. They are relying on your self-doubt, which has now appeared as a trauma response. Because again, if I have self-doubt, I don't necessarily have to confront. I don't have to deal with the abuser having a large response to me confronting them. Trusting yourself once felt more dangerous than doubting yourself. You get to a point where Okay, I know this. But when you've been, again, when you have your abuser roar at you or gaslight you so many times, now it feels safer to just doubt. I don't know. I don't really know. What do you think? Now it feels safer to just rely on external opinion and an external stance in order, again, to tell you what's real, what's safe, and what's true for you. So now this self-doubt that you have now developed, which is what the abuser wants. They don't want you to be confident. They don't want you to feel certain in how you feel. And they certainly don't want you to have assertive communication in order to explain how you feel. They need you to have self-doubt, and it develops as a trauma response, which means you have experienced trauma, and now this thing comes up as as a result of having experienced trauma. Internalized critic. External validation becomes an invalid external invalidation becomes an internal voice. This is now the abuser doesn't even need to be in the room. They don't even have to say it anymore. You've heard it so many times that now it's the thought that comes up. Like I read somewhere years and years ago that your child's internal dialogue starts with the parent's voice. So the things that you say and the way that you talk when they spill a little milk and you go, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong with you?" That becomes their internal dialogue. But the kid spills milk and you say, "No big deal. Like, let's just clean it up. Are you okay?" Then that becomes their internal dialogue. The same thing happens when you have been experiencing emotional abuse over a period of time. You don't even need the abuser to be close by. All of a sudden, the things that they say to gaslight you, to invalidate you, to make it so that you're questioning who you are, your sense of truth, and your sense of safety, it comes up without them even being present. Oh, I'm overreacting. It's not even that serious. I just need to stop. It wasn't even that bad. I should be stronger. That's the problem. The problem is not the person talking to me crazy and degrading me and yelling at me and going on and on and on and lecturing me every time I have any level of misstep. That's not the problem. The problem, I should be stronger. Oh my goodness. And now the abuser is like perfect. It's like a spinning top. They've already got you going, and now you're doing the work for them because of that internalized critic. And also, why would you minimize your own experience? Psychodynamic framing, internalized object relations, and self-attack as an adaptive survival strategy. Object relations, I'm trying to give a very brief overview. It's the idea that you believe that you are loved, and that you are still connected to people even when they are not around. But when there is some sort of threat, you don't believe that you are as safe. For example, people that struggle with like an anxious attachment style, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but people that struggle with like an anxious attachment style struggle with object relations because they believe that when the person is apart from them, that they are no longer loved. And so they require a higher level of reassurance, a higher level of connection. Like, where are you? I need you right here. I have to talk to you all day long. We're not talking about people that are in love and they just enjoy being around their person. We're talking about people that feel a deep level of insecurity, and they don't feel safe anymore when their person is not nearby or if they haven't heard from their person for an extended period of time. This is a struggle with object relations. And again, a struggle with the idea that I am still loved and I'm still sound and I am still whole, even when the object is not nearby, even when the object is not here with me. And again, self-attack, it becomes an adaptive survival strategy. If I attack myself instead of holding the other person accountable for what they're doing, then I can survive. Okay, similar to the one that I mentioned earlier. But if I just turn it in on myself instead of saying like, "Hey, where were you?" or "I need more emotional connection, I need more from you," or the things that you are doing emotionally, mentally, psychologically, they're making me feel like I'm not connected to you, so I don't feel safe anymore. But instead of holding the other person accountable for their actions and asking them to change or stop, I'm going to self attack. And again, it's an adaptive survival strategy because when things are happening and we don't feel emotionally safe, again, there's a threat. We are intended to be attached to other people. We are intended to operate as a pact. But if I can't get that, then I'm turning inward to try to figure out what is happening, and what's going on with me. What is the impact of emotional abuse? Now, there's a bit of a spectrum, and not everybody gets everything. Okay. So, kind of if there's some mild emotional abuse, or if it's pretty early, maybe it's relatively recent, or you're catching it pretty early, there might be just some chronic self-doubt. Like, man, am I okay? Am I good? Did I read that right? I feel like they were kind of mean to me. I don't know. But it starts to come more and more and more. Okay. Starts out as just a little bit, and then it's like, like I'm not sure. Kind of find yourself wanting to check in with your friends a bit more often. You're asking other people's opinion a bit more often. Like, what do you think? And then you're also kind of relying on the abuser more often because you have more and more self-doubt. Emotional numbness. Numb is a feeling, and it typically comes after we have felt so many other feelings, and we just can't seem to place or settle these other feelings and experiences. And so then we just go numb. Where now I don't really feel anything one way or another. I'm here and I'm existing. I'm not really dialed in. I'm not really sure what all is going on, but I mean, I'm here. Well, how is it? Is the cake good? Girl, I don't know. It's fine, I guess. Like we don't really feel dialed in one way or another. Difficulty trusting your decisions. This is one of the quickest ways to know you are in an emotionally abusive situation. When you're dealing with a person or some circumstances that don't encourage you to trust your decisions, right? When you're dealing with a boss or a supervisor that isn't fostering an environment where you are encouraged to learn how to make healthy decisions based on educated knowledge-based decision making. You should be with somebody that's teaching you how to do the thing and then giving you room and space to make the decision. So when you're in a position where you have difficulty trusting the decision that you made, it goes along with that chronic self-doubt, you're probably in a situation where you are being emotionally abused. And persistent anxiety or people pleasing. We all get a little anxiety every now and again. I always say you don't want anxiety to go away completely. It's a part of your body's warning system. So you don't want it to ever completely go away, because then what would happen when there was actual danger, right? Like you want the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up. You want to be alert when it's time. But persistent anxiety at times where there's really nothing going on. That is your nervous system saying, we are out of whack. Something is off. We feel like something is off, but we can't put our finger on it. Or we tried to confront the thing that we felt like was off and we did not get our experience validated. Okay, so that also is like nervous system. Again, like I talked about the recalibration, like your instinct, the calibration of your instinct is off and it can no longer tell what's definitively safe and what is definitively unsafe. And then people pleasing behavior, again, as a coping skill. If I can just please this person, if I can just do more, be more, almost become subservient to this person, maybe they will treat me better. Maybe the reason why is because, well, they've never seen love. So let me just shower on them and completely be people pleasing subservient in an effort to maybe that will make it stop. Maybe that will make them be kinder to me. That will make them be more considerate. Maybe that will make them see me and address my feelings. If you're in that situation, you are probably in a situation where you are being emotionally abused, or you've been in a situation where your emotional needs were neglected, and this is an adaptive response. Moderate, more moderate effects of emotional abuse. Intrusive memories or rumination. Intrusive memories are just what they sound like, intrusive. You are, in line and you've been waiting to see this movie. You buying your ticket. You think about how the popcorn is finna be, and you're gonna get you a little slushy and all the things that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you have a full-blown play-by-play in your head of something that happened, of a time where it was reasonable for you to ask for emotional support in that circumstance, and the person laughed at you or just ignored you, or they were rude to you at a time where you really needed some sensitivity. And it is intrusive. It's at times where it's not even like someone said something that reminded you of what happened. It's like, why am I even thinking about this? I am at the zoo right now and everything is amazing. Why is a thought about that one time when we were driving in the car, why is that popping in my head right now? And then rumination. Thinking about something with the intention of solving a problem is addressing something constructively. Ruminating is thinking about it and walking around in a circle. It's just like pacing in a circle. Ruminating, one of the way that you know that you're ruminating is it's not about problem solving. It's not about strategy. That's different. When it's like, oh, I got this problem at work, this coworker. Okay, let me think. If I talk to HR, I don't know if that's going to work, but if I talk to my supervisor, maybe if I put it in writing, that's strategy. That's not ruminating. That's thinking about something with the intention of resolving and then taking action after it's done. Ruminating is just you're just thinking about it. And ruminating is often thinking about negative things. You're just walking around in a circle, thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And one of the ways that you know that you're ruminating is it's often disturbing, right? It's not pleasant. Strategizing, critical thinking about a different problem or something that's coming up, we often have good feelings because we feel like there's hope on the other side. There's going to be change on the other side. Ruminating doesn't give us that. Heightened emotional reactivity. This is when you have emotional responses to things that just seem bigger than what everybody else has, right? You are all going to get food and, somebody bumps into you and you're like, oh my God, you better watch it. And all your friends are like, whoa, like, she said, excuse me, like why are you having such a heightened emotional response? Or, someone says something to you and you start going off, or you raise your voice, or you shut down completely. It's essentially your emotional response to something that's happening is probably disproportionate to what's actually occurring in that moment. And that happens when we have experienced emotional abuse or emotional neglect, where your feelings were invalidated for a period of time and now everything has been suppressed. So now it's a really sore spot. Someone says something where it should just touch, and for you, that whole area is sore. So when something little happens, someone touches you the wrong way, looks at you the wrong way, boom, response is disproportionate, a heightened emotional reactivity or shame responses. Um, People that are emotionally abusive that don't have healthy conflict management skills or healthy communication skills will often use shame as a way to control. Oh my God, you are so messy. What's wrong with you? Why can't you do better? They will use shame, and shame stays with you and it lives with you. And shame will make you feel like you didn't make a mistake. You are the mistake. Shame will make you feel like you didn't have a problem or create a problem, but you are the problem. And so now you have a shame response. Oh, I don't know. You can't focus, your humility, it goes from just kind of being humble about something to now you just feel completely ashamed of it. And difficulty with boundaries and with relationships. Dr. Glenna's bootleg definition of boundaries. Boundaries are the conditions at which people have access to you. Boundaries are the conditions at which people have access to you. Boundaries are intended to keep people in your life. Boundaries are not blocks to cut people out of your life. Boundaries are not the bricks that we use to push everybody away. Boundaries are the announcements at the door because we want people to come in. For example, I always use this example, but you can come to my house and you can visit. But the condition at which you can come to my house is you need to call before you come. You cannot have access to my house if you don't call first. The condition is such because I want you to come over. I just want notice before you show up at my door. Okay. The boundaries around money. The condition at which you can have access to my money is if you pay me back in a reasonable amount of time. If you don't honor that, then I'm not going to, you don't have access to my resources. People that have been emotionally abused struggle with boundaries because they have lost the calibration of where it is okay to say what they want and where it's not okay to say what they want. People that emotionally abuse, one of their biggest goals is to blow right past your boundaries. They don't want you to have any boundaries. Because if you have boundaries, you'll realize that they are mistreating you, and then you'll make them stop or you'll get away from them. So people that have been emotionally abused always struggle with boundaries. And then once they start to learn, oftentimes their understanding of boundaries is no, get away from me. I blocked her and I set a boundary. Blocking somebody is not setting a boundary. That's not the first step to setting a boundary. Now, sometimes we go no contact, but that is absolute last, right? But difficulties with boundaries. And then similarly, difficulties with relationships. Now, people that struggle with boundaries, they oftentimes think that people that have boundaries are just being mean. What do you mean? I don't have any boundaries. I'll give all of my money. I'll give all of my time. I'll give all of my resources. So why do you say no? You're mean. No, people who don't have boundaries don't understand people that do have boundaries. And as a result, if you are the one that doesn't have boundaries, you struggle with relationships because people that abuse, they love it that you don't have any boundaries. And people that do have boundaries, you don't understand them and you see them as mean. And so then we struggle with relationships. And again, it goes into trusting people and so on and so forth. Let's continue to build on that. More severe, complex trauma response is an emotional flashback. An emotional flashback is different from an intrusive memory in that the memory you recognize that it's like a commercial playing out in your head. You can see it playing in your head, but an emotional flashback is you feel like it's happening in your body. You feel like the same emotional shock that you had when you were in that situation, you feel like that thing is happening today. And it's very inconvenient because you can have an emotional flashback when you're doing something completely unrelated. Again, you're at CVS buying a pack of gum, right? And all of a sudden you have an emotional flashback and you feel like you're being screamed at. You feel the terror of being yelled at. You feel the stress in your body that you felt when your partner hung up on you and blocked you immediately and wouldn't talk to you for 24 hours. You feel the emotional stress in your body. Emotional flashbacks are different from intrusive memories. A memory is just a memory, whereas the flashback is in your body. And sometimes we can't even tie it back to a memory. That's the other thing about those. Hypervigilance and nervous system dysregulation. Hypervigilance is when you being real extra. Well, I'm not doing that because they might do this. It's like it might not be that deep. Like, well, I'm not giving my phone number out because you know how people can be. Like, well, you can give your phone number out. Like it's a big reach, right? It's an effort to try to keep yourself safe, but it's often, again, a larger response to what's actually happening. And nervous system dysregulation is when you feel unsettled over a long period of time. You can be hyper aroused, you could be hypo aroused, hyper meaning, oh my gosh, I'm over the top and I'm always nervous and I'm always anxious and I'm always go, 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 go. And I won't stop because if I stop, then I'm going to feel all these feelings. So I got to stay busy. I'm going to be at my nephew's baseball game and then I'm going to go over here and I volunteered at the church and I am dysregulated and I can't calm down and have a regular conversation because I am dysregulated. And on the flip side, hypo, meaning a lower level of regulation. I don't have any energy. I don't have any motivation. I don't want to do anything. No, I don't want to go. I'm not going to go out on girls' night. I'm just going to stay in the house. So just dysregulated on either side. Identity confusion. Gaslighting is intended to make you confused about your identity. Intermittent reinforcement is intended to make you confused about your identity, about who you are, what you like, and what you don't like. So if you are confused, if you don't even remember who you are, all of a sudden you dressing different. You know, you smoking weed and you don't even like weed. Like you're just into things, you're doing things sexually that are not in alignment with who you are and what you like. You're not even comfortable with the things that you and your partner are doing sexually. But the identity confusion means that the emotional abuse is working. And chronic feelings of emptiness or worthlessness, not moments, not I'm really sad, but chronic, like, no, I'm not worth anything. And if you're not sure, you can also see it in your actions. You can see it in a decline in terms of how you act, who you interact with, your work performance, how you dress. All of a sudden, there's a decline, and it's showing that I feel empty and I feel worthless. Kind of the final deal here is complex PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a maladaptive response to a traumatic event. Post-traumatic stress disorder, kind of singular PTSD, it usually means that there was one big scary thing that happened, and then your body remembers it, and you're having a reaction to that big scary thing. For example, maybe you got into a major car accident, maybe you got injured, or it was just really, really scary. And now when you get around semi trucks, you know, or you get around motorcycles, it it shakes you up a bit. Complex PTSD happens when you have experienced something traumatic over a long period of time. Okay. So oftentimes people that have survived domestic violence situations, neighborhoods where there was a lot of violence, and of course, emotional abuse, suffer from complex PTSD. This is a mental health disorder. And so please don't self-diagnose. And if you even think, I think I have complex PTSD, you absolutely need to talk to a licensed professional. That's not something that you kind of treat at the house. A disturbance in your self-concept, a disturbance in again, your idea of who you are, what you are, how much you're worth, your skill set, what you can do. Disturbances in terms of that to where you don't even know who you are anymore. Relational instability, this is a pervasive relational instability. This is now I'm having problems with friends, with coworkers, with cousins, with strangers on the street, with romantic relationships. Oftentimes it's pervasive because your nervous system is so dysregulated that you can't seem to connect with other human beings, oftentimes on any level. Persistent affect dysregulation. Your affect is the way that your body and your facial expression expresses emotion. So when we have it to where you are flat all the time and it's just not really showing anything. Someone says something that you find funny and you're just nothing's funny. Okay? Persistent, not RBF every now and again, but persistent affect dysregulation and difficulty feeling safe even when the danger has passed. Now you done broke up, you out the relationship, right? HR got rid of the big bad wolf and now that person got fired and moved on. You got a new job, you graduated, you don't have to deal with that professor anymore. But something is still lingering. And we're not talking about like still kind of difficulty trusting. We can work on that. But when you still don't feel safe, even when the threat has been eliminated, we might be looking at complex PTSD. What do we do? What do we do? Reflective awareness. Where do I still second guess myself? So I want you just to start asking yourself some questions. Reflective awareness. I want you to reflect on your experience and become aware of what am I still experiencing. And even a step before reflective awareness is you have to acknowledge that something happened. I said it earlier, where oftentimes people don't want to identify as a person that was abused on any level. It's like, no, I wasn't abused. It wasn't that. And again, we're not talking about, you dated somebody for a month and it was a bad relationship and then you decided to exit it, right? It just wasn't a good fit for you. We're talking about ongoing, insidious emotional abuse. So first you have to acknowledge, I think that had an impact on me. I think that's having an impact on how I show up in the world. I think I am having some of those intrusive thoughts. I think I do sometimes feel like I'm in danger when everything should be okay. You have to acknowledge that you feel some type of way. And then you start to reflect on it and say, how is that impacting me? How am I showing up differently in my relationships, platonic, romantic, professional, that if I had not had that emotional experience with this other person, I wouldn't do. I used to be so assertive, and oh my goodness, now I'm scared to speak up. Where do I still second guess myself? Where do I still second guess myself? And another good question, whose voice do I hear when I doubt my experience? So a lot of times when you're having these emotional responses, it's not really you in your own head. Remember, we talked about earlier that internal critic where the abuser doesn't even need to be anywhere nearby. The abuser can be long gone. But that voice, you can't do that. You're not smart enough. You're not big enough. You're not small enough. You're not pretty enough. Whose voice do I hear when I doubt my experience? Or even them saying, it's not that bad. You're just being dramatic. Oh my gosh, like you're so emotional. Oh my gosh, right? And so to be able to separate their voice and their goal of trying to wear you down and feel more empowered to say, no, that was hurtful. I think that was pretty messed up. Another thing that we do, so reflective awareness, I want you to start to reflect on what your experiences are. And also, I need you to create safe spaces. This means safe spaces in terms of people and safe spaces in terms of physical distance. You cannot heal in the same place that is making you sick. You can't heal from emotional abuse if you stay in the room with the emotional abuser. I need you to physically separate yourself. But Dr. Glenna, it's at work. If you don't file a claim and get on, if you don't get transferred, out of accounting over into another department, you can't heal from the very thing that is harming you if you sit next to the very thing that is harming you. So I need you to create safe spaces, both in the sense that you need to put distance from certain people and physical distance from certain things. And also conceptually, I need you to create safe spaces in the form of people. I'm going to talk about this, I think, in a few weeks, but the idea that safety is created through increased safe experiences. So the only way that you're going to believe that people are safe again is if you surround yourself with safe people to give you more memories that reinforce the idea that people are safe. The only way you're going to be able to understand that that individual once was unsafe, that boss, that girlfriend, that boyfriend, that coworker, that parent, that sibling, that individual was an unsafe person. But not all people collectively are unsafe. The only way that message is really going to sink in is if you surround yourself with safe people that give you practical real life examples. Okay. You're not going to learn that you are lovable if you keep surrounding yourself with this person that doesn't want to love you the way that you deserve to be loved. You have to surround yourself with somebody that will. And then create a physical safe space. Meaning it could be your bedroom. It could be just your desk or your cubicle at work. Decorate it. Get new linens, put some fake flowers, some fresh flowers, whatever you want to do, but make your physical environment one where it feels cozy and it feels comfortable because it keeps sending messages to your nervous system that you are safe. Recovery from emotional abuse requires validation, self-validation, external validation, and then using education to validate your experience. Self-validation is when you can turn to yourself and say, Self, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. That was really mean when they said that to you. That was really mean when you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And they said, you don't know a lot of things. That was hurtful. That wasn't funny. That was a slick comment, and you didn't deserve that. Your ability to validate yourself will strengthen you because somebody's not always going to be around. That's just the reality. And you can't call another person and you can't have a moment of like, oh my gosh, that was awful and that was terrible. There's just not always room for that much dialogue about every single little thing that's ever happened and that's ever been hurtful. So you do have to develop the ability to validate yourself. Similar to what I was saying, safe spaces are built through surrounding yourself with safe people. So, yes, you do need external validation. Okay. This is not a complete inside job. So, you do need people around you that will validate your experience, friends that will validate things, a therapist. Yes, a therapist that will validate, nope, you're not crazy. That falls under the definition of abuse. I've done it many a times with clients where I'm like, nope, that's abuse. I don't have an emotional attachment. I will describe it and I'll sit with you and hold your hand while we work through this. But external validation, again, sends the message to your nervous system you are not crazy and you were not supposed to be treated that way. And then validation in the form of education. For example, the happy hour. This is one of those things. Coming here and learning about this stuff so that you're like, oh, first of all, it's not just me. Because anytime we have terms and books written on things, it's not just you. Trust me, it's not just you. So getting education, reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to licensed clinicians when it comes to mental health and mental illness, because it takes a licensed clinician to diagnose mental illness, but getting education on it to help you understand you aren't the problem in and of itself. You are not the problem because you're broken or you were dumb or you should have known better. That's not the problem. These are actual phenomenons that happen. These are relational dynamics that happen to more than just you. So get validation in the form of learning how to validate yourself and getting external validation in the form of safe people, and then external validation in the form of education so that you can see this stuff intellectually and independent of your own circumstance, and then learn how to combine it. And then a couple of therapeutic modalities, psychodynamic therapy for internalized patterns and identity repair. Psychodynamic therapy, think Freud laid on the couch talking about what happened to you all in your yesterdays. So I'm big on psychodynamic therapy. I like to look at what happened. I'm very big on it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened that kind of shaped who you are today. So that's a therapeutic modality. That's a fancy way of saying what the therapist is going to do when they're meeting with you. So that's one way of looking at what shaped me to make me get to the point where an emotionally abusive person could even reach me. And then EMDR, I've talked about it before. Eye movement desensitization. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but EMDR informed therapy for relational trauma and belief change. EMDR, very short and dry way of describing it. Your brain has two buckets. One bucket is big, scary memories that are very disturbing. The other bucket is very neutral memories. I went to CVS, bought some lotion, went on home. EMDR, it helps your brain to reshuffle those disturbing memories into more neutral memories. It's not the Men in Black thing. It's not going to make you forget anything, but it will decrease the intensity of a memory. Why is this important? Because if you were emotionally neglected as a child, that memory is deeply embedded, and then you transfer that experience onto a romantic partner or onto a boss or onto other, intimate relationships. EMDR makes it so that the emotional neglect that you have from when you were a child, it reshuffles it so that it is not so impactful. So now, when you're dealing with your romantic relationships and with your intimate relationships, it's not as heavy because you're not holding on to the memory that happened yesterday. In order to receive EMDR, your therapist needs to be EMDR trained. I am an EMDR trained therapist, and I'm very much a proponent. I think everybody should try it at least once. And community education, because psychoeducation reduces isolation and the happy hour is an entry point. Psychoeducation helps you to understand. Psychoeducation is just a fancy way of saying we're going to teach you what we know, right? Us therapists and clinicians, we're going to teach you what we know. It reduces isolation. It helps you to understand it's not just you. It's not just you. Abusers follow a script every single time, and they just use the same script over and over and over again. And the people that don't fall for the script, well, they don't fall for it because they know the script. They've heard it. They're like, "Oh, no. I've already seen this. I'm not dealing with this." Okay? So, these are just some practical steps. Acknowledge that you're feeling away. Ask yourself some questions. Start to challenge the ideas and the thoughts that come up. Create a safe space for yourself in terms of physical space and actual people, and then create a safe space in terms of physical distance from abusive people, physical distance from the physical space where it was abusive. Validate your own experiences, also get some external validation and some education. Use the education to validate your experience and talk to a therapist. Talk to a therapist. I'm currently accepting new clients in the state of California. You can visit drglenna.net for more information. And that is all I have for today. I apologize for my technical difficulties in the very beginning, but thank you very much for hanging out with me. I am open if you have any questions. Please keep your cameras off and please keep your microphones off. But if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer any if you have. And I'm also going to stop the recording. So thank you all very much for coming to the happy hour.